Segun was in total shock. His hands began to shake as he stared across the restaurant. It was her, his ex-wife, Tenny. She looked incredibly happy, laughing with her friends. She was so focused on her meal and her conversation that she didn't even notice people were staring at her. When the waiter came to take Segun and his mother's order, Mrs. Balogun could barely speak. She was just as stunned as her son. For months after the divorce, Segun had tried to find Tenny. He eventually gave up, thinking she had either suffered a tragedy or managed to leave the country. But he couldn't understand where she would get the money for a flight. He had left her penniless and forbade her from taking even a single needle from his house. But the woman sitting over there didn't look poor. She looked gorgeous, elegant, and far more mature than the girl he had bullied 4 years ago. Deep down, Segun felt a sharp pang of regret. Over the last few years, he had realized he never truly loved Tiwa. He had grown to love Tenny, but he realized it too late. She was gone, and he had no way to apologize. Segun, stop acting like a fool, Mrs. Balogun hissed, trying to get his attention. He couldn't take his eyes off Tenny. Even when the food arrived, Segun was so distracted that his fork was just picking at the empty tablecloth instead of his plate. Mrs. Balogun felt embarrassed. She pinched his hand hard under the table. Segun jumped, realized he was about to put an empty fork in his mouth, and tried to focus on his lunch. Tenny was finishing her meal, keeping an eye on the chemistry between Larry and Rosa. She could see Larry was interested, but Rosa was playing hard to get. Tenny smiled. She wanted her friends to be happy. As they stood up to leave, Tenny's eyes finally locked with Segun's. She didn't flinch. She just looked away as if he were a piece of trash on the sidewalk. She had no room in her heart for people who destroyed her happiness. "Hi, Tenny," Segun called out before he could stop himself. Tenny paused and looked at him with a confused squint. Rosa and Larry stopped too, staring at the man who had dared to speak. "Hello, do I know you?" Tenny asked, her voice cold and flat. Segun felt his face turn red. She was pretending she didn't even recognize him. "It's me, your ex-husband, Segun." Rosa and Larry exchanged looks. So this was the animal who ruined Tenny's life. "My ex-husband?" Tenny turned to Rosa. "Did I have a husband before who became an ex?" she asked. It so seriously that people at other tables started leaning in to listen. "Oh," Rosa replied with a loud, nasty sneer. "Oh, you mean the idiot who conspired with his mother to set his wife up, just so he could spend more time between the thighs of his own sister-in-law? Is that the fool you're asking about?" The restaurant went sodden. "Ah, yes, that's the perfect way to describe the fool sitting there with his senseless mother," Tenny said with a wicked grin. "Well, nice seeing you, ex-husband." As Tenny and her friends walked out, the other customers began to murmur loudly. "What a terrible man," one woman whispered. "He sleeps with his sister-in-law?" "Look at the mother," another man hissed. "She probably helped. Shameless people." "Some men can put their thing in anything as long as it has a hole," another person joked loudly. Mrs. Balogun was boiling with rage. She couldn't take the insults. She stood up and hurried out, with Segun following behind to pay the bill quickly and escape the shame. Once they were safely in the car, Mrs. Balogun turned on her son. "This is all your fault. Why did you have to call her name? You should have pretended you didn't see her." "How is it my fault? You are the one who called me to this restaurant. What is wrong with saying hi to an ex-wife?" He was shaking with anger. He didn't want his mother's lectures. "Your wife Tiwa needs you," Mrs. Balogun continued, trying to calm down. "This is the time to focus and make babies so this issue can be settled." "Did she come to report me again?" Segun snapped. "We have tried IVF twice and it failed. I can't keep wasting my strength on a woman who cannot get pregnant no matter how much I try." It's not her fault. She wants it too, his mother encouraged. Just try again. Maybe this time it will work. Segun leaned his head against the steering wheel. He couldn't help but think, if I was still with Tenny, I would probably have 2 children by now. He realized he had traded a diamond for a piece of glass, and it was mostly his mother's pressure that led him there. I'll try one more time, Mom, Segun sighed. Only because you want a grandchild. Mrs. Balogun smiled. She knew her son would always listen. Good, but whatever you do, do not tell Tiwa that we saw Tenny today.
Segun drove away from the restaurant in a silent rage. He dropped his mother off and headed back to his office, but he couldn't think straight. All he could hear were the insults from the restaurant's guests. He blamed Tiwa. If she hadn't gone to report him to his mother like a child, he wouldn't have been at that restaurant, and he wouldn't have seen Tenny. But seeing Tenny had changed something in him. She looked more beautiful than ever, mature, sophisticated, and glowing with a confidence he had never seen before. He wondered if she was married or if she had been living abroad. He felt a desperate urge to find her and apologize. He even wondered, if I go back to her, will she still want me? He regretted throwing her out like trash 4 years ago. He realized now that he had lost a queen while chasing a shadow. While Segun was spiraling into regret, Tenny was busy building her new life. She bought a sleek new car and registered Taiwo and Kehinde in a top-tier international school. With the help of Rosa and Dr. Larry, she moved her belongings into her beautiful new home in Lekki. As she settled the boys into their room, she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She prepared their favorite meal, steamed buns, and promised them a fun tour of Lagos during the weekend. For the first time in years, Tenny felt she had everything she needed: a great job, a beautiful home, and 2 adorable sons. That evening, Dr. Larry drove Rosa home. It was love at first sight for him. "Rosa, would you like to have lunch with me tomorrow?" he asked hopefully. Rosa felt a spark too, but she hesitated. She didn't want to step on Tenny's toes. She wasn't sure if Tenny had feelings for Larry, and after everything Tenny had been through, Rosa refused to be another person who betrayed her. "I can't promise, but I'll try," Rosa replied cautiously. Larry smiled, telling her he would be waiting before driving off. When Rosa told her mother about the encounter with Segun at the restaurant, Mama Rosa cheered. "Good! That is how a woman should stand tall. You don't let a muskrat like that man make you feel small." When Segun finally got home, he stayed quiet, pretending his mother hadn't spoken to him. To keep the peace, he took Tiwa to the bedroom. That night, Segun was unusually gentle and sweet. For the past 4 years, he had been rough and cold, treating Tiwa like a chore. But tonight, he drove her with a tenderness that made Tiwa feel like a new bride. However, Segun's mind wasn't on his wife. As he held Tiwa, the image in his head was Tenny. He was imagining it was Tenny he was holding, and in his passion, he started moaning her name. "Tenny, Teniola," he whispered. Tiwa froze. She felt uncomfortable, but she endured it, fearing that if she spoke, he would stop. When it was over, Tiwa felt sexually satisfied for the first time in years, but her heart was heavy with suspicion. "Have you been thinking about my sister lately?" Tiwa asked, snuggling against him. Segun snapped out of his trance. "Why do you ask? You kept calling her name while we were together, and you were so sweet tonight. Were you with her today? Is that why you were acting like that?" Segun felt a jolt of panic. He didn't realize he had spoken out loud. "I didn't know I said that," he muttered flippantly. He quickly got up and went to the bathroom to wash, leaving Tiwa alone in the dark. Tiwa's eyes turned cold. She was certain now Segun had found Tenny and they were having a secret affair. She remembered how she had stolen him from Tenny years ago, and she was terrified Tenny was doing the same to her now. I am not like Tenny, Tiwa hissed to herself. She was weak and didn't see me coming, but I am smarter. I will never let her take what is mine.